when we're
All
rolling.
right.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain something real quick. You're gonna tell me your opinion, and then after that, we start drilling, role playing, rocking, baby.
That's right. Let's go.
So I've identified 5 key parts of the call, and we're talking about the first one, which is finding out the why. And that comes from the first minute that the prospect enters the meeting, all the way till you have a really tangible thing that they wanna have, and also a feeling associated to it, like a real reason why they wanna do what they wanna do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then after the why, we have the commitment, which is just as simple as seeking why. It's just as simple as finding out if they're committed or not. So you ask that, and then you also ask if they're committed for outside help as well. Super easy so far.
Yeah.
Third, we have the bottleneck, the actual bottleneck, where you find or you've already found why why they want what they want, what is it that they want, and what has been preventing them. Then you go into all that, you reframe it. That's the bread and butter of like the call, and those are the first 3. And then we just have basically consequences and future pace, which are kind of optional.
Yeah, in a way, if you get enough of the third, it's like just the additional bread and butter.
Yeah, like with the first 3 is where the sale is made, and these 2 just make that probability a lot higher. So obviously, we always want to do it, and we're going to train them. But a sale could be done just with these 3. Objectionless sale is what I'm talking about.
True, but then there is no, like, there are a couple problems with that because consequence create urgency and future pace makes sure that there is no fear and it's a fear check. So you could technically
You're
check the
absolutely
fear
right.
in the way now, but how would you create urgency? Because like he might need the problem, he might have a problem and it might be worth it to invest, but it's not that important right now because you haven't thought that through. So what do you think?
Yeah, the truth is not that they're completely skippable and they don't matter. They matter a lot. And I've just found a way to name these 3 parts, but you're essentially doing a little bit of other things within those parts. Because for example, the bottleneck part, the third, it's called bottleneck because I have to give it a name, but you're doing a whole bunch of different things as well. You're reframing, you are doing all sort of things. And in commitment, I call it commitment, but you are also hinting a little bit of the consequence. Because if they give you any sort of pushback or, oh, I'm not committed, or even when they say, yes, you're committed, then you ask them, like, okay, because what happens if you don't?
Yeah, but that's
So,
sort
and
of
again,
technically a consequence. Yeah, I see.
yeah, exactly. It's technically a consequence, which is like the normal flow of how things go with commitment, but you don't go as deep into it as you would if you had a specific section dedicated to it, which is the consequence, which is not like super skippable, super whatever, but you can essentially still have an objectionless close if you do these 3 things super, super right, if you ignore like the consequence and future pace. But obviously, we're still gonna get that percentage, that probability percentage of we're gonna make this all because we're the best closers. But it's just an easy way of understanding because future pace and consequence are the opposite things. And the first things is just a very easy summarized way because instead of coming up with 10 different possible parts that could or could not happen on any call, I found that finding these 3 core ones and then consequence and future pace is an easy overview and way to train.
Yeah, okay, I love that idea. So there's an important addition that I feel at least makes sense to me to the explanation of why that is the case, that like deep pain and, current situation is like where the sale is made, is because that's the only thing that's real. Because like the whole point of the process, as far as I understand, is to build out enough of an emotional gap, an intellectual gap, to the point where making that purchase for however $1,000 is worth the outcome. Because if you had a Lamborghini out your door for $5,000 on sales, like would you buy it? Would you find the money?
Yeah, yeah, you got it right. And you are able to do that a little bit within those first 3 parts that I mentioned. It's just that dedicating a whole part for it, it's a lot more efficient and makes a bigger impact. But essentially, you're already doing it, like you're hinting towards it in the first 3 parts. But we're not ignoring
Yeah,
that at all.
yeah. So that value, like building up the value of the product, because you say, for example, like getting the objection, like, no way, that's just too expensive. Might not be that they don't have the money, it's just not, the value is not there, so you have to go back and dig into that. The point is there are 3 parts where the value is built. There's the pain, future pace, and consequence. But only one of them is actually real, which is the current situation, because that's their reality.
Correct. And again, I could just only choose one name. I could have chosen current situation. I chose to name it the why or the reason because not only you need to find already the current situation to find out the why, but if you find everything about how their life looks like right now, but you don't find the reason why they want to change it and the impact that it has in their future and everything, then you didn't go as deep as you should have. So I thought why is a better name just to identify it, but it's included there. So what I want you
That's
to
true.
understand is, yeah, it's just a way of seeing things. Like there's just three parts, but obviously there are things in between and things that you're like, okay, one thing is current situation, and you're telling me the why. Those are different things, and yes, they are. But it's just better to because one is leading up to the other.
Yeah, I see. So I feel like then the deep pain from like what I learned in Board the Close, like that's a better way to phrase it. Because yeah, current situation is like, yeah, it sucks. Okay, whatever. It doesn't imply that you dig for why. But deep pain, pain is there for a reason. So when you uncover the pain, you naturally ask the question, okay, but why does that bother you? A lot of people are fine being overweight. So what's up with that? So I feel like the deep pain is more of a universal term for that. Because I feel like having a label is important, but also I want to ask you if you feel like, do you not want to attach a label to this sort of process because people could be like heavily on the consequence side of things or really, really wanting something rather than getting away from it? Or what's sort of your reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have no problem with changing the label. We can call it deep pain, to be honest. The reason why I did that was just because it made sense to me. And I wanted to make sense to you as a concept, not the label. So yeah, it could be
Mm-hmm.
deep pain, asking for commitment, and then bottleneck. But we
It's
can
like,
even change those other two as however that you wish. But that's the concept. Like three main parts
yeah, you
where that I've
uncover the
decided
why.
to chop
Okay.
up the call. Yeah.
That's value. Okay. Interesting.
So on that end, you want to do bottleneck. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, that's true. It's just that when you label it the why, it's like you can go, because like in deep pain and consequence in future pace, there is a different set of questions, right? So when instead of those three sort of trisecta or three different categories of questions, you just say that it's why, you can sort of juggle them around, be flexible, but at the same time, it loses its like logical structure. And it's not as easy to dive deep into a specific part of the call. Because if you're trying to uncover the why and you start with deep pain, but then go to consequence and then end up with a future pace in the same time frame that it were to take you to go very deep on the pain, you're just going like a bit more surface level, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you feel
however
how that
you
might
find it
happen?
more comfortable for you to understand it. But yeah, so shall we do bottleneck?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's like my interpretation, sure. But do you see how labeling it a Y could be a potential problem with going like deeper on the actual line?
I mean, I am completely open to changing the level. You don't have to convince me to change the level. It's already changed, brother. That's okay. The reason why it was why in the first place is because in my head it made sense, and in my head, like how I wanna gather all that data of that initial part of the call is finding that reason or pain or beyond surface level motivation of them being on the call today with me. That's it.
Oh, surface level. So in the beginning of the call.
Yeah, the very first part of the call, that's what I call the why. It could be
Yeah,
called
okay.
current situation. It could be called deep pain, however you feel like
Yeah,
it.
yeah, okay. I got you. Then what's like the third part where the sale is made, where the value is built?
Bottleneck.
But see, then the bottleneck means different things for you. Because for me, the
Yeah,
bottleneck is
but
just the reason why they're not there, but it's not the reason. It's like they might have they might have pain, and the reason because they procrastinate, and that brings them pain. But even when you solve it, why do you even want the goal?
is
The bottleneck
bottleneck
is just
a
what
limiting
stops them.
belief for you? Something
Yeah,
internal that doesn't.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
something
that's the
that
same
stops them.
thing for me.
Exactly. Okay.
Same thing for me.
Okay, then when you address that, when is the part where you actually ask, okay, but why is that important in detail, not the surface level?
Well, it depends on you. It could be either bottleneck or in the why at the beginning. So you have a little bit more leverage into asking the commitment and all these other things. But even if you skip it, then that's just something that you're gonna have to do in bottleneck before going on. Because what I've realized is that there are some things that you can skip at a certain point on the call, but then you have to ask later on. The most
Yeah,
easy example that I can give you is the facts. You don't have to dedicate a specific section to find out how their life looks like, if they are married, single, how much they make, all these different things. You can just go around your call. And then whenever it becomes relevant, you ask that before the actual question that you want to ask, which is most likely emotional. So instead of being factual and then emotional, you just go like factual, emotional on or however do you feel that it's fit. Because how I wanted to name these parts of the call is the objective behind them and not what you should or shouldn't ask specifically right there.
yeah, okay, interesting. So that's like very flexible then.
Yes, super flexible.
Interesting. Do you feel like when you dive massively into first logic and then massively into emotion, there might be overall a better outcome than if you were to like alternate them? Or how does alternation work
I feel
on
like
the
you
prospect in your
end up
mindset?
naturally just alternating. Like it's hard to go ahead and do first logic and then emotion because, well, you want to find out you want to ask just questions as much in the surface level so that it allows you to ask something more emotional, and you go from there basically. And every time, because every question has a purpose. If I ask you how much are you making right now compared to how much you're looking to be making, the purpose of that question is to uncover some emotional need or emotional gap that's not being fulfilled right now.
Yeah, and label it and then ask, okay, why did that bother you? Or are you okay with that? No, okay, then why not? So yeah, that's like identifying that pain. I see, that makes sense. But
It
at the
just
same
gets
time,
to
though,
a
for
point
example,
where you have enough
yeah.
fact data that then you forget all about the facts. Like you have accumulated enough facts, then the conversation is a lot emotional now, and it just stays on the emotional level because that's a more in-depth and authentic conversation. So even though you start as fact, emotion, fact, emotion, fact, emotion, then you're just fully immersed in the emotion, trying to shift and play with not play, but like help them manage their emotions so that they see the things more objectively and get to the emotional state that they want to be, referencing every once in a while to the factual and logistical answers that they're looking for.
Yeah, okay, factual and I see. So there is one sort of concept that I know that like a bit contradicts that, I feel like. Because you know, like the limbic brain and the neocortex, right?
You mean about
Do you
the
know those two parts?
reptilian, mammal, and
Yeah.
yeah.
There's the reptilian part, like the limbic system, emotions, like yeah, and then the neocortex, cognition, right? So reflex, nervous system, emotion, cognition. When you enter into like the limbic state, which is, you know, emotional sort of conversation, you activate that part of the brain. There are literally like sort of chemicals that get released that prevent your neocortex from like taking over again. And it takes some time to clear out those sort of hormones from the brain to get back onto the logical side. So I feel like it would be really good to stay flexible and uncover all the logic and all the emotion when it actually arises, right? Instead of just pushing and like not listening to actually what the person is talking about. But it's not exactly possible, I feel like, because of that, I guess, theory. However, I'm pretty sure it's proven that when you go towards the emotional side, you can't really come back to logic fully.
Okay, well, you can definitely do that. What I've outlined in these five total parts of the call is not a way of how you do the emotion, fact, or first fact or
Yeah. They're
emotion, or
not
first emotion, then
steps.
fact. That's really up to you. This is just a way of understanding. As a matter of fact, the order doesn't matter. You could even start with however you please. You can find the why or deep pain, however you want to name it, then go into consequence, then go into future pace, then inject the commitment, and then lastly do the bottleneck. The order also is not that
Yeah.
relevant, but they are definitely parts of the code that I feel almost every code has or should have at least.
Interesting. I mean, I heard that as well, that like the order isn't relevant, but like why though? Because if you get emotional first, then it's really hard to come back down from the logic. So it seems like the order should be a little bit in place of like
The
first
order
logic, then emotional. So
matters,
why?
just not the order
Yeah.
matters a lot, obviously, but not for like what I want to teach you or at least give you my opinion on is these five parts, like the importance of these five parts and that they have to be yes or no, not the order. Like the order definitely matters, but that's not like what I wanna touch on right
Yeah,
here, right
not
now.
what we are talking about right now. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. If you ask me about the order, then my personal answer would be that how I just told you, which is boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
But yeah,
emotional
it's
logic
not the
is like
focus
your,
right
right?
now.
Interesting. Okay, so it's just a separate introduction of 5 points that need to be covered, and you feel like they can be flexible in like, so like, then is there an order?
They
Because that
have to
is
be
important.
flexible because not all prospects are the same. So if someone hits you with a curveball and tells you, hey, I don't have enough money or whatever, then you're going to have to make a reframe right there and then, not only in the bottleneck, but before. As we said, there's the skills and there's the part of the calls. And the parts of the call, the easiest way that I can group them and categorize them and say like these have to be trained yes or yes are those five that I focused on. Then there's the skill set, which could be reframes, could be objection handling and all these things that as we touched on another call video that you can see right here, then you can just do on every part of the call. If it's intro, you can objection handle, and if it's the outro, you can still build rapport out there.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. It then, because like reframing and changing beliefs is like usually logical, right? Otherwise, it's like delusion and deception based on emotion. But the true reframe should just
No,
be like
I would say it's pretty
highlighting the
much
reality.
both. I would say it's pretty much both because any logical thing that you talk about that the prospects tell you carries with it an emotion.
Yeah, we justify things
The
with logic.
difference is yeah,
Not,
exactly. Just if you make
yeah.
them verbalize and if you're talking about that emotion to help it either shift or going the way that it should benefit them the most, or if you just leave that as a fact, right? If I ask you, okay, how much are you looking to be making?
Interesting. So then on a macro scale, the structure matters, but on a micro, it's just like different skill sets and you always alternate between emotion and logic. Makes sense. Then let's dive into the bottleneck. Awesome stuff. Yeah, sure.